Well, I want to thank everybody for coming out after we had to change gears and reschedule, and the weather didn't help us any, and I've been out of power for 3 days, and it's been a crazy week, but here we are, and the flowers are here, and we're going to have some fun. So one thing we do have for you, and Barbara Gordon, who's a judge and in the Santa Clara Society, had created a really nice little summary sheet about the different types of arrangements and what kind of you're looking for when you do them for a rose show. I did print out a few copies. We also have it available electronically, and I believe Judy sent it out to everybody. But if you really would like a hard copy afterwards, I can give you one. The thing is that's helpful is it does have some tips of, and some nice pictures of what things would look like if you did a particular style. So in order to do our arrangements tonight, we're going to start with doing what we would call a traditional arrangement, which is either a mass arrangement, which is flowers all around, or there's also a line arrangement, which is line of flowers, or a line mass where you have a nice line coming down and then a mass of flowers at some point. We're going to do the traditional mass arrangement in this particular container. And when you're doing a traditional arrangement, you have to think about your container. So you want something that is somewhat traditional. So this is kind of just a plain gold pot. It's not too modern. It's not too ornate. It's definitely traditional. Whereas later I'm going to do an abstract design. You would not want to use a container looking like this in a class for a traditional arrangement. It wouldn't follow the intent of the class. So you do have to think a little bit about what style you're going to do when you pick out the container. I do have floral foam in this one. 2 reasons. One is, especially if you're new at arranging, or if you're going to arrange it at home and bring it, your flowers will stay put the best in the floral foam. You can also do the arrangements on site and use other mechanics, which I know Tomoko is going to demonstrate. But for this particular all-around traditional mass, we're going to use a container that's traditional with a little bit of foam. I do use a turntable when I arrange because it makes it easier to make sure that all of the sides are done. Even though this will be placed on a table, the judge is really going to see it from 3 sides, but they want the back to be finished. It gives it more depth when they look at it, and if they can tell that you didn't do anything in the back, they definitely will mark you off for that. So you want to do it as though they could see it from all around, even though in fact there will be a focal point, which will be where you place it on the table, where you think the best side is that you want the judges to look at. Okay, now when you're done with your arrangement, you do not want the judges to be able to see this ugly floral foam. This is not good. And also you want to have your container be a part of your design. What you don't want to do is have a container and everything's coming kind of just like that, stiff out of it. It wants to be so that it kind of goes together and flows together and becomes one unit. So I find it the easiest to start my arrangements with the greenery. And the greenery helps you determine the shape and the size of your arrangement. One easy rule of thumb is when you're making your arrangement to make it about 1.5 times your container. So you don't want it so big that it overwhelms your container, but you don't want it so tiny that it doesn't go together. So you want it about 1.5. Now the other rule of thumb is if this was going to be a centerpiece, you want it so that you can sit at a table and see over it. But for the rose show, this is not going to be a centerpiece. It's going to be a display piece. So on it about 1 to 1.5 times. Excuse me. So what I like to do is use a couple of different greeneries, and just to create the general shape and framework. And I like this variegated. I think it's fun to use it, and it gives it just this little extra pop of color. But what you do have to be careful about is when you're doing arrangements for a rose show, that everything else that you use don't overwhelm the roses. And I have had that happen where you get so excited about all your other materials that the roses look like an afterthought. So we do need to be a little careful that we don't overwhelm it with all these other things. So I start by somewhat looking at where my height is going to be. And then when you're using your container, you want to make sure that you're using the lip of the container. So when you put things in, make sure everybody can see this. You want to put them in so they're actually going to insert and come up. See, now that little guy's going to be in my way too much, so I'm going to take him off. You want it to be so that it goes right up to the edge of your container and that it will eventually begin to blend in with your container. Okay, so then I just look at the other little pieces that I have. I just put another piece. So I'm going to kind of create a base for all of this, and then I'll have some other pieces for later that I can use to fill in if I need more. Again, I'm just going to kind of insert it as close and just at a straight angle as I can. And then I will keep all these little bits and pieces because at the end, you do one last look around, and if you can see a lot of oasis, it's really handy to be able to stick some extra little greenery in. You also want to make sure that when you put the greenery in, that you give it a nice good push in so that it is going to, definitely go into the oasis and be able to take up the water. So you have to be a little careful, especially because we a lot of times do these at home and transport them, that you don't want to put it in loosely, and then when you drive in your car, the whole thing's going to fall apart. A really easy way to transport them, and I do this a lot, depending on the size of your arrangement, is to put it in a bucket after it's done and wrap a towel around the lower part and then put it in the back of your car between the front and the back seat. It will hold it very, very stable. Okay, so we have a general framework. We're going to add a few more pieces of this other just plain green because I don't want to overwhelm it with, and then I'm putting those where I don't have any of the variegated. And it's, again, we're just using it to create a shape and to create a structure, and then the flowers are going to be able to be the star of the show once we get all of this in. So then again, I'm looking at my height. It's probably a little too tall. I'm going to put this on the other side of my variegated. And then so I have just sort of like an all-around sort of shape that then I can work the roses in. So again, when you're doing roses, these are not homegrown because I have 0 blooming, not even one. When you use roses for the rose show, you don't want them overblown. So you want a combination of some that might be a little bit tighter, like these buds, or these that are opening a little bit more because they are going to open a lot more once they get into the show. It's warmer in there. They've been cut. They've been put in oasis. So the one mistake people do is they bring roses that are already too open. So then by the time the judges see them, they're way too overblown, and then the roses are actually getting points in the judging. So you want to pick your very best roses and not just, oh, this one's okay. You look at your roses carefully when you're going to put them in for the show. So I'm going to follow my shape that I've already created, and I have a pine needle there, with my roses. So there's going to be one that's going to come up in the center here. Now, I wouldn't strip all of my leaves if I was doing this again for the rose show with my own homegrown roses, but you want to take some of them off because number one, you want to be able to have a clean insertion into your oasis or into whatever other mechanic you're using. So I do take off some of the leaves. Now, it's different if you're showing them in just a jar versus in an arrangement. But if you have good greenery, you should leave some of it because the judges are impressed if you have good greenery. If you have messy, bugs and stuff, take it off because you do have other leaves in here. Okay. So then we're just going to go again, or kind of around our shape that we created. We're going to put some high up and some low down. Don't make them all the same length or the same height. And then we're just going to begin to just sort of continue to build on the structure that we have. And that's why the turntable is really, really helpful. So you just kind of turn it and say, it would look really good to have a little more yellow coming right there. And you're just going to keep turning and putting your roses, however many you have, okay? Now, I bought a whole bunch because that's the way that you get them at Safeway. So I wouldn't put all of these in. That's too many. That's going to be overwhelming. And we want to create, a look where it's definitely roses are the focus, but we're going to add some other things to it as well. Make it kind of a combination. Okay, and then some. So again, don't forget to use the rim of your container and put some nice and low. Very low is always good. Taking off some of the leaves. So that one I'm even going to make really short and just kind of sneak it in there so we see it. And then you sort of start, as you're working, deciding now which is the area that I think the judges are going to want to look at. And then you kind of give that one a little more focus. And I think it's going to be here. So I'm going to add a couple more. And then I look at my back to make sure that those roses are going to show through, but they're not going to be seen as much because it's going to be sitting on a table. But, okay, so then we're going to put this guy up. Yes. Yes. Yes, very good, Judy. Yes, that's when you bring them and you ask all your friends that are the consulting rosarians, can you help me name this rose? We did that once. My mom had a really cool rose and we loved it. We didn't know the name of it. So we brought it to the rose show and she did a beautiful arrangement with it. And someone there, and I don't know who it was, this was years ago, said, oh, we know that rose. It was some unusual thing. So we used that name. They didn't say it was wrong, so all good. She won an award. Okay, so then I am going to use some other flowers as what we would call filler flowers, just to break it up a little bit. And I do like to use alstroemeria. It lasts really well. So again, it's one of those flowers that'll stay good for a long time. I like to deconstruct it because I find that for most arrangements, if it's by itself, it's too much. Like that's just too big of a piece of stuff. So I take little pieces of it off. Okay, and then again, you just kind of look and you say, you know, it will look really nice. And then I do put them in again as little bunches, but then they can go in a lot shorter because now I've cut them off of that big giant stem. You know, it would look really nice to have a little bit tucked right in there. And so you do the same kind of principle. You just kind of keep turning it and then adding a little bit here and a little bit there and some low and some close in. But again, we don't want to overwhelm our roses, so we're just going to put like a little touch of white through here. And again, sometimes particular classes actually ask you for a certain color of roses. They might say, you know, we're going to use, this class is to represent whatever, and you want to use warm color roses. So again, you know, look at what they're asking for. Usually it's just roses of your choice. You do have to label them, and but sometimes they'll specifically say, you know, we're looking for warm color or cool color or something like that. Okay, so because I don't want to take too much time, I'll work when Tomoko's working in the corner to just fill this all in. But what you're going to end up having is just overall arrangement, highlighting your roses, little accents of other flowers and your greenery in there. If these roses open more, that's great because they're nice and tight, so it's okay. You're not going to have a problem. The other thing that's really important is a lot of times when we transport them, like right now, I took a lot of the water out of this to move it. So when you get to the rose show and you place it, don't forget to add more water because you want it to have as much water as it can so that it'll be really fresh when the judges see it. So that would be the concept of how you would do just a traditional mass arrangement. Beautiful mass of flowers, roses balanced throughout, roses being the star of the show. So that's our quick and dirty number one. And this one will be in the raffle and I will finish it over on the side, but you get the idea. So the second one, and this is detailed in the handout, is the modern arrangements. And those can be actually a lot of fun because you can, almost anything goes. But there are little rules. So when you're going to do a modern arrangement, you do want to look it up. We can give you this handout or go on the ARS website. They also have what the rules are. But when you're doing modern arrangements, there's different kinds, just like we just talked about for traditional. So there's modern free form, which kind of means do whatever you would like, curving lines inspired by nature. There's transparency, and I think we've seen that where you could use like mesh or something, and you see the roses on one side and sort of look through and see them. So there's fun things you can do. And then there's the abstract design. And when you do an abstract design, it's really important that you look at their definition of abstract. So when you do an abstract design, what it means is you're using, roses are still the star of the show. You don't use nearly as much plant material. You're not filling in. But you're also expected to use two, what they call abstractions. And what it means is using something natural from nature, doing something with it that is not what it normally would do. So, for instance, in this particular, and I did this for the show, so a lot of people remember this. This is a very geometric, modern container, ceramic. So what I did with this is, I'm sure you'll all know what these are, bottle of spray paint on what are these? Anybody recognize them? Yeah, dried agapanthus with the little flowers picked off of them, right? So the way that, so this is an abstraction. It's a natural product, removed from the plant, spray painted, used in an unusual way. So because this container has two holes, one on each side, I just used these little pieces of the agapanthus. Three. There is foam in here, yes. That's a good question. I cut it kind of, it's very thin, and I pushed it in through here, and it's just enough. And it's dry in here. I have not added any water, but I did add water for the show. So just enough so that it's something to grab my stems. And this is, and then I just keep it in here. So I poured all the water out after the show. This is the same dried arrangement, dried oasis that I had, a year plus ago when we did the show. So this is my one abstract part, is utilizing the dried and spray painted agapanthus. Now the next thing that's really fun to use, flax leaves. You can do a lot with flax leaves. All kinds of ways to turn them and to, so what I like to do is if you rub them on the other side where the big stem is, look how soft they become. So you lose a lot of that stiffness. And then you can use your fingernail or any other tool to make a little cut. And then you take the top and you maybe make a circle. You can make whatever you want out of it. And you stick it back through itself, and voila, you work on it so it gets, a better form. You can make it more of a triangle. You can make it more of a circle. And then you are using, again, a natural product, but in a way that it didn't grow. So then again, we're using this to kind of create the framework. So we take a nice piece of flax that's been manipulated, is what we call it, and we put it in our container. And then we'll look for another one. This one's a little smaller. This one's a little more split already at the end, so I'm going to do the split down lower, try to get a better circle. And then again, you can just stick it through, or you can even tie it in a knot. And then see this one, it's split again, which is kind of fun. So it looks a little bit different yet again. So I'm going to put this guy in between. And then we have to, of course, we have to leave room for our roses. So I'm going to get these guys in. I'm going to actually switch the positions because I like this tinier one down lower. There we go. And this little bit bigger one up in here. There. Makes a little more of a statement. There we go. This one has to stand up, and you do have to fiddle with them a little bit. This type of an arrangement, I would do it ahead of time so I knew what I was going to do. I would arrange this on site. Try to transport this, and these kind of things are going to break. You're going to have a lot of trouble with it. So then with the roses, here we go. We're not going to use that many. We'll see how many we decide to use. I wanted more of a coppery red, but this was all they had. So we're going to make these work. Oh, this is a really bad one. We're not going to use him. Okay, so again, the roses need to be the star of the show. And so if there's really bad guard petals like those, I'm going to take those off. These leaves are not good, but if these were, your own roses, you would hope that some of your leaves would be quite nice. So I want to use one, really long one in the back here to go with this whole area, which is nice and big and is going to kind of be our back to side view. And then in the front, I would like to put some smaller ones. So I'll trim this guy a little bit. Put him back here. Try to get him so that he just kind of sneaks in there. There we go. And you can hear it. It's catching into the foam right there. And then I want one of the bigger roses. So tighter roses should be toward the top, and your bigger roses should be toward the bottom. So this is kind of a nice big one. So I'm going to take that one, trim it a little lower, and see if I can just fit it right in there. And the roses, of course, I want to make sure are going to be in the wet oasis. Okay, and that would be my abstract design. I have 2 abstractions, you have to have 2, and I have the roses as the star of the show, and then a modern container. Very simple, doesn't need to be complicated, and it is important when you're doing these kinds of arrangements where there's very few flowers to really have your roses be extremely good. So that would be that one. This one is not going in the raffle because this is my container that I love. So this is just for exhibition only. Okay. It's different, it might not be the style for, what I would put in my house, but it's fun for a show. And the other thing, and Pam Schenk is the expert on these, I love miniatures. They're fast, they're easy, they're fun. I say everybody here should bring a miniature. There's no reason not to. They're fun, they're easy, they're quick. Guess how I transport mine? I put it in the cup holder of my car, and already made, already done. Take it out of the cup holder and put the tag on it, and it's done. So we're going to do a really fast one, and all the minis, most of the minis for our show say designer's choice. So you can choose what you feel comfortable making. So I'm going to make a very quick little all-around arrangement with this, and these, I have to say, did not hold up well. So when you're doing a miniature arrangement, you need to use either miniature roses or mini Flores. And I have a few white ones that are not super good, but I'll use the ones that held up the best. Again, you want to keep everything in scale. So the greenery, I would want to use something that's small and delicate. Any kind of greenery that's in a similar kind of scale to what the roses are. So I wouldn't use like a camellia leaf if I was going to do a traditional with these. So I'm going to do it exactly the same way I did the other one. We're going to do a quick little building of our structure, just really fast. And again, these can be super quick, super fast, easy, fun. Don't overthink them. And if you don't overthink it, you won't get yourself stressed out. You just kind of like go, put it together. I do also some flower arranging in the Garden Club of America shows, and I had to do a flower arrangement. I was going to a show in Colorado, and you have to bring everything with you. And so I looked at, well, what could I enter? What could I enter? And there was a class with miniatures, so I'm going to enter that. So I bought all this stuff at home. I packed it in a wet paper towel in a paper thing, and brought it all in my carry-on. I had it was a tiny miniature. I had my little container with the oasis. I had everything with me. I got to the hotel, put it together in my hotel room, brought it down, set it down, done. I'm like, okay, that's the way to go. No stress, easy to do, very quick, and it was a lot of fun. It was a really fun one. Now the other thing you have to look at in your instructions is what size does it need to be? So in the PRS, we will have a guideline in our show that says it should be no more, usually I think 10 inches is what the Rose Societies go by. So you want to make sure when you're done, you hold a ruler to it from every side, and if it's more than 10 inches, guess what? Pull some stuff out of it. So, and the same kind of concept holds true for doing this as to the big one. We want the roses to be the star of the show. So I will say these are not the best little minis, but that is what I could find. So again, we're going to put one in our taller section with our greenery. We'll just use what we can out of this one. And you'll get the idea. There should be a lot more roses than what we're going to have, because these are just did not hold up that well. But no, unfortunately, those were purchased, but there weren't many choices. And I thought when I got them, I don't think these guys are going to make it very far. But it was enough so that we can, do our demo. And the best place, and these are not from there, or they'd probably been holding up better, is Trader Joe's. They always have, they call them spray roses. They've always got the spray roses, and theirs hold up really, really well. So, but obviously for a show, we have to grow our own minis. But if you were doing it for another organization that wasn't, the Rose Society type of thing. So again, you want some really low down to be kind of in the front of your container, front and center. And then you're just gonna, now I will use a few little accent flowers on this again, and then when Tomoko's doing hers, I will finish filling in. But I'm gonna put little teeny punches of purple in here. Let's brighten it up. Let's not make it all white in a white cup. That gets boring, right? So we just kind of being careful, because I can easily get carried away with all my purple, and pretty soon it's a chrysanthemum arrangement and it's not a rose arrangement. So just a little bit here and there, and I've done that, and I've gotten comments, the roses were not dominant. I'm like, yeah, I kind of got carried away with the other flowers. So don't get carried away. Just add them as a fun, cute, pick me up, little tiny accent. I like to use the little buds and things when you're doing miniatures, because again, they're in scale. They're tiny, there's a little pop of color, and it just works really well. And then another filler flower that I like to use for those, these are very small, and they're more like greenery than a flower. These are little wax flowers. So you would use it almost more like a leaf. Cut a little bit, stick it in, and again, we just keep turning, looking for and we have a lot of oases to cover, which we will do, but we just keep turning it. And then I always keep some extra roses back, so that when you're finished and you turn it and you look and you think, yeah, I don't feel like the rose is really showing, then you can always add some more on the side. That's going to be the focal point that the judges will be seeing first, so that you're sure that when they walk up, they're going to think, yes, she intended for that to be a rose arrangement. So I'll get this guy in there, even though he's a little bit suffering. Just, okay. Okay, so we'll get him over here. Okay, and then I'll probably add a tiny bit more purple, and then I'll fill in with the wax flower. And then the last thing that you do before you're going to set it down for the judges to see is you're going to sit down at eye level, and you're going to look, and you're going to see, do I see, which of course now I do, see a lot of oasis. Then you're going to add little teeny pieces, like little pieces of leaves and things. If you add them really low down, does a lot to cover up your mechanics. And then you just make sure that you've done a quick look all around before you set it down. When you set it on the show table, then you decide, okay, which is my best side? Maybe it's this one, because the roses are bigger. And so then obviously it would be all filled in. You set it where you want it to be set, so that when the judges walk up, they're seeing what you think is the best side of it. And then once it's placed, no one's supposed to move it again. Even the judges are not allowed to touch it. So you just need to decide that when you put it down, and then make sure you always double check that you have, in fact, covered all your mechanics. And you also, which most of you already know, for the rose show, there should be roses that we've grown. But on the rose show tag, you have to put AG, which means arranger grown. Don't forget to write that. And it also, most of the classes will say designer choice. So if you decided, I'm going to do a miniature and it's going to be a mass, a traditional mass, like this one's going to be, make sure you write that on your tag. Don't think the judge will just know. Well, they probably will know, but it says you're supposed to designate. So really read what the show is asking you for, and just follow the directions and have fun with it. And you know what I always feel like? I try to make stuff that I like, that I think is fun, that I think is pretty, that I would like to have in my house after the show is over. And sometimes the judges love it, and sometimes they don't. And you know, you always learn from the comments. You get back and then you think, maybe that was true. This was this or this was that. But either way, you're happy because you like what you did. So that's what I say. Have fun with it. Do something that you enjoy doing, that you would like to have in your house. The main thing is just try it. It's a lot of fun. I'll tell one more funny story. When my mom and I first joined the Rose Society, this was a long time ago, many of you, probably few of you remember Earl Parsons. He was a judge we had. He was a character. Oh my God, he was a character. So we didn't really understand rose shows. So there would be things like, it was called, something about technology. So we thought, okay, this would be really clever if we put it in a, broken computer thing or something. And he would look at our arrangements and laugh, you are not understanding the schedule is not to interpret it literally. It's like using the flowers to express it. Don't use a broken computer, whatever it was. So again, it's about the flowers. So even if the class says, it's sailing your boat, don't go get a little boat and stick flowers in it. It's too literal. The flowers should express the idea of it. It isn't like to make it look like just like that, okay? So anyways, I know. You learn the hard way sometimes. He would laugh at us quite a bit. But we learned a lot, and we always had fun with it. All right, any quick questions before we let Tomoko take over? All right, and this little one will be finished, and it'll be in the drawing as well. So I will quietly sit over to the side after I clean up, and I will let Tomoko take charge with her beautiful East Asian designs.
So now it's my turn. So mine probably looks completely opposite of what Karen showed. For those who are familiar with Eastern style, East Asian style, my background in Ikebana. Ikebana is a Japanese flower arrangement, and within the Ikebana, they have so many different schools, so many different the design principle. Mine is called a Sogetsu. That's probably most internationally taught because they have a lot of English material available to teach. And I took Sogetsu classes for about 10 years on and off before pandemic from a master teacher. Her name is Yoshiko Williams. And she lives in San Mateo, so I live in Redwood City, so it's lucky that I found a great teacher. So today I'm just gonna show just a two arrangement, which is in a schedule. Typically we have two Eastern Asian style. One is called a nage-ire. That means literally throwing into a tall container like this. So that's one class. The other one is called moribana. Moribana is kind of like a piled up flowers. That's what it means. And typically they use a shallow base. So it's the opposite of this tall, skinny base. And then you typically use kenzan, which is the metal needle frog. And I will explain a little bit later. But why don't I start out with this tall container arrangement? And so it's called a nage-ire. And there are two techniques to do a nage-ire. One is crossbar. And so I have these branches, a little bit thicker branches. It's a flowering plum trees. And then one thing you can do, the easier one is called a cross, you can make a cross shape. And so I'm just measuring the width from the mouth of the base, and I'm just putting something like this, and I cut here. Whoops. Thank you. Great. And then I will make one more, something like this. So if it's the branch is hard to cut, you can kind of rotate and cut a little bit. So here, so it's a little bit, we're gonna make a slightly smaller one. I think it's always better to start out with something a little bit bigger, and they just, you trim the edge to make sure you can get the right here, and I can go a little bit more. See, and even more. So it requires a few cuts, even more. So I'm going to just push in. So right now I'm not putting water because I don't want to spill. So it will look like this. So just keep it like maybe like an inch or so, a half inch or so. So not all the way down, and it's going to be really hard to take it out. So put it here, and you do the same thing for another branch. That if I can get the right one. Oh, of course I dropped that one. Here. Go a little bit more. Great. So something like this, so keep it here. And I'm not making arrangement for here, but this is one technique. The reason you do this one is that by doing so, you can constrain the direction of branches. So I just want to show you what does it mean. So these are also flowering plum leaves. Just the flowers are finished, so these are coming out. It's always beautiful that these colors are amazing. So by doing this, you can constrain something like this. So if you don't have this one, it's really hard to make some angle. So by the way, the Japanese ikebana is all about like line arrangement, and everything needs to be asymmetrical, so which is very opposite from what Karen showed as a mass arrangement. But by doing this one, you can constrain, say, only using this area or this area, so it's easy to make a certain angles. And then, so this is just one example. And the other example that I can show you, which is probably more common for ikebana, is you make, like, so I'm gonna do like, this is the height of this one here, and I'll cut slightly below, so it won't show in here. So I slightly cut here. Something like this. And then I will take the top, maybe it's probably better to use a thicker one, and then cut, make a slit right in center. And this is you have to be very careful. You could cut your fingers, so you do it very slowly. And then as you can see, so I'm cutting like a little bit, probably a little bit more here. And I do the same thing for the second branch. So I will do this one, and so slightly below the height of the base. And then this is a little bit thicker one.
What kind of branches are those?
These are like flowering plums.
Oh,
Flowering plums, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I do the same thing. So this fits inside. And then let me use a thicker one, and so it doesn't break. Cut right in between the slit very slowly, because you're going to break very easy. Okay. So now I am showing you, let's see. So typically for this nage-ire, you want to kind of measure the height of your base, and you add the diameter of the mouse. And so here in this distance, and then you multiply by 1.5 times. That's how high is the height of the first branch called like a shin, which should be the longest branch of the arrangement. So something like this, and then 1.5. You don't really have to tape measure. This is just a rough, you can just visualize. So here, this is the height, 1.5. So I may be looking at here, somewhere around here, 1.5, to stick up from here. So I'm just going to show you what does it mean by that. So that means I'm going to strip out all the leaves below this. Then, so the one that I cut, this one, and then I'm gonna take, this is 1.5 times. So I'm gonna cut somewhere here because this does not go all the way. This will go sitting, like somewhere sitting here. So I'm gonna cut somewhere here. This is just rough to begin with. And then, so eventually it will rest like this. In order to rest in the side of the base, this has to be like, for example, like about 90 degrees angle. So it will rest in here, like this. And then, so I have already this one cut, and I'm gonna make a split here. This may be a little bit difficult because it's a little skinny one. So we'll see if it doesn't break. If it breaks, okay. Then here, so I have a slit here, I have a slit here, and I will cross this one like this. This is always a challenge. It's and then something like this. So now I'll go a little bit deeper. It may break here. So this will go straight to the base. And then actually, I'm gonna decide not to use a split because it's a little bit delicate, that's skinny. So I cut this one 90 degrees. So this will stay here. So now you are actually making about like 45 degrees. So suppose this is 90 degrees, this is 0. It's about 45 degrees. And you can adjust if you want to do 75 degrees, you can do like this, or you can do like this. So typically, ikebana, you want to have a, like, so suppose this is a 0 degrees, or suppose this is 90 degrees, this is 0 degrees. You want to have a 75 degrees, 45 degrees, and 15 degrees. Those are the three, some magic number they usually use, 75, 45, and 15. So 3 branches have to be those combinations. It's not always the longest one is a 45 or 75, but I will just demonstrate. So this is, for example, this looks like a 45, so I will keep it this way. And this is called the shin, the longest about 1.5 times of this and this one. Okay. And then the second one is called shin soe. Soe, this is the second longest branch, which is supposed to be about 2/3 of this one. So now I'm gonna use, so this is pretty long, so I'm gonna probably use something like this. So I'm gonna strip all these leaves first, and then probably something like this. So that means I'm probably gonna cut around here, because again, it will be resting inside. It's not going all the way. So something like this is probably 2/3 of this length. So this one, because I did 45 degrees, now I want to do a 75 or 15 degrees. We'll see if I can do this.
This is when you wish you were a math major.
Yeah.
To me, people like Tomoko do it so often that they just can see it. You know, they don't have to stop and think of the angle. They just can see
Yeah,
it.
so this is a little bit iffy. So I am using about almost straight, but this is supposed to be like 75 degrees, something like this. So now the third branch is supposed to be 45, 75. So now I have to be 15 degrees. So I'm going to choose something short. Like so. And then this one should be 2/3 of this length. So something like this. And so now I need to do a 15 degrees, meaning something like this. By the way, I probably should have used a turntable so I can turn, because right now I'm just, oh yeah, I have one of these, yeah. Because right now I am making arrangement towards me, but it should be towards you by the time we show to the judge. Okay. Something like this. So right now, so I have a 45, 75, and 15. Now I can put roses. I want to use, because these are like a burgundy type of thing, I'm going to use pink to kind of complement same type of so let's see. So mine I also bought from Safeway. Surprisingly, Safeway has a lot of great materials, but because this event was supposed to be for Tuesday, I bought this one on Sunday, so it's pretty much like balloon. So I'm gonna use, so Japanese ikebana, they only need 3 flowers or 5. It has to be 3 or 5. It's like usually odd numbers balance as well. And so I'm gonna put in, and then roses or any flowers should be much lower than these branches. And then, so let's see, I'm gonna use something like this.
Great colors. The colors are so beautiful.
Yeah. And then teacher will tell you always cut in diagonal in water. You're like laughing. Right here. And then I will put, maybe I could use something different colors.
Is that 2/3 of the smaller?
No, it's now it becomes like really short. So it's, I would say, maybe like half of the shortest one, and then I'm just gonna use 3 roses, but it will be like each one is slightly different direction, and right now something like this. And I will turn to your side once I've finished. I'm gonna choose something different. This one looks nice. They're all pink hues, but they are slightly different. I use this one, little short. And so, by the way, everything is really short, so resting somewhere around here. And as you add more materials, it's kind of resting kind of on top of each other, so try to, stay. But I feel like I probably need something to stabilize. And then also, even though I said 3 branches make up the original one, you also need something in here just to balance, kind of counterbalance. So I want to put one more branch, something really short. It's almost the same height as the roses. This one even shorter. And it's super easy to have like yeah, we are getting their music. Yeah. If you don't mind, if somebody can talk to the room across the street, like across the hallway, I know they have some issues. So right now, I may want to do here. And then I'm gonna add, oh gee. We're gonna get their music. I have some like wisteria branches, and wisteria is almost kind of looks like a curly wheel or something like this. It's these interesting shapes. So I'm just gonna use this one as a complement. Here. Just. No, it's a curve naturally like this, yeah. This is interesting, all curl. Okay, so it may break, but it will look so far. I may need to some adjustment, but it's kind of look like this. This is kind of finished piece. So you can see always like a one flower need to be really kind of looking really front side, and then you wanna change the height of each rose, so it's not everything staying the same one. Oh boy. So something like this. Maybe I should put a little bit shorter. Let's see.
Are those just sitting on the top? They're not?
Yeah, they're just sitting on the top, so it's really easy. So definitely this is not something you don't want to make at home and bring into the show. It's going to be, like all over. So something you want to make it on this on spot. And
Did you fill the container with water?
yeah, I already have a water all the way to the top, but I also want to add a little bit more, just because roses, need a lot of water. So right now the water is all the way up here, and all the branches are resting somewhere around here. Yeah. So yeah, this is called a nageire. So that's one. I'm gonna put it here.
I'll scoot mine over so we have more room.
Okay. All right. So I will make the second one. Oh my God. See. Okay. So this one, I think I bought this one from Crate and Barrel. It was supposed to be some kind of platter for the dinner plate, but I'm using as a traditional Japanese ikebana, moribana style. So that one, you're supposed to use a shallow base and make sure like your water should be a feature. Water should be seen in the part of the arrangement. And then I'm gonna use probably one of these, I think this is big enough. I'll put this one here. And add a little bit more water. In kenzan, you don't want to put kenzan in the middle of base. So again, it's very different from what Karen did. It's something always has to be asymmetrical. You don't want to be in center in a mass arrangement. So I'm putting a kenzan like here, like right now, it's just a corner as opposed to in the middle. And so I'm gonna do these are, let's see. These are hydrangea leaves. It's called like an oak leaf hydrangea leaves. So I will use this one, and this vase is relatively small, but it's the same principle as nageire that I show you. It's the longest branch is supposed to be that the 1.5 times of about this, the width or height. So I'm gonna just take the longest one. So I would say this is the height, so it's about here is probably the longest. And so this one you don't need a mechanical like here because kenzan is the one that you can stick the one. And then it's important to also cut in diagonal, so it's easy to stick to kenzan. The way you put in a kenzan is, let's say you put like straight, and you feel the kenzan, and then you will make it to, let me do 45 degrees. So you, like this. So you put like a straight, and then once it's on needle, and you just change the angle. So something like this. So this is longest branch, shin, and it's about 1.5 times of this length. So I need a second longest one, which this looks a little bit wilted. And I'm gonna take a couple of leaves so that this is more prominent than the other one, so it's not like competing each other. So this one, second longest branch should be about 2/3 of this longest one. So something like this. Okay. So I'm gonna do this one 75 degrees. So go straight and then push down to 75 degrees. And then I will pick the shortest one. This one. And then this one will be about 2/3 of this second one. So that's about this. And then take out a couple of leaves. So this is 45, 75, so I do 15. Something like this. Then I'm gonna start putting roses. I'm gonna use a red one for this one. Slightly different. So let me use this. Looks like the most open. I will use this one, the shortest, the most open one. Maybe even shorter.
Tomoko, what are the green leaves on this?
This one?
Yeah.
These are like oak leaf hydrangea leaves. Yep. And then I'm gonna use even like shorter. So I using this most open one, the shortest length. It just stays better. It looks better if the most open one is the shortest, so it doesn't look like it balances better. And I will use, they all look the same in terms of openness. And I will make this one a little bit higher than this one, but not too high. Branches should be much taller, but flowers should be always shorter. Shorter. Okay, so I'm going to use this one. A little bit, this is the highest perhaps, and I'm going to use one more rose of the same. And I will do something in between these two height. Okay, so right now, the way, so I have a most open one shortest, and this one highest, and somewhere in the middle. But right now, if you stand, you can look at the Kenzan. And in Kenzan, you don't want to see, kind of like the oasis you want to hide. So you don't want to see Kenzan's mechanical. So what I wanted to do is I'm going to fill more leaves to hide Kenzan. So I have dusty millers. I'm going to use these dusty millers to fill. And I chose dusty millers because this is black, so it's a kind of nice contrast. And the roses are red, so that's another, completely different colors. So these are actually huge dusty millers. And then don't want to overwhelm, so I'm going to make it real short, just to hide Kenzan and hide any kind of mechanical stuff here. And then always take the bottom leaves. And yeah, ikebana, like you kind of emphasize the cleanness, like you don't want to have too many things overlapping, like a mass arrangement. You always want to have like a lot of, like a kind of like a space, like this, maybe even a little bit more, make it even shorter. And for something like really soft one or anything like a tulips or any annuals, like really soft, delicate branches, actually I use this one. This is I bought from Amazon, but it's a Japanese, like a grape scissors. When they harvest grapes, they use one, like a really fine one. And it has a really good control to cut annuals or any kind of soft stems. And these are ikebana one. These are the great to cut like real heavy duty stuff, like the branches I was splitting. So right now I'm just adding a dust emitter for empty spaces to hide kenzan. I'm going to add a couple more. The music is quite overwhelming.
It's always the same song.
Okay, I'm gonna one more. Maybe this will do it. And then typically, something like this you want to cut to show the more lines. Anything like if you look really busy, try to minimize. Like minimalism is ultimate like ikebana principle. So you don't want to make it too busy. Oops, sorry. Like this. So I think I'm happy with this one. It's very simple. Yeah, I try to hide kenzan as much as possible. But yeah, this is called moribana style.